I've got a lot of opinions.
I've learned a lot in the past couple of years in getting involved in government, and a lot of it I haven't liked. Let me give you just an example. If I want to get something done in the hospital, I ask somebody to do it, and it gets done. It gets done now, usually, especially when there's an emergency. We can go, we can move fast, just we have to. But then, when I sat down on the county board, you try to get things done, and you sometimes can get pushback. In fact, almost all the time you can get pushback, and nothing ever goes fast. And unfortunately, I think we have a similar situation here. You'd say, where would I like to be in my dream world? That's all well and good. I think we can agree, most of us I'm sure, on what we would like to see if we had a magic wand or if we owned a circus. But given the fact that we don't, and we would like to make some steps towards that goal, my humble suggestion is if we step out and say, this is what we want, make it happen, it just simply won't. One of the quotations I heard that makes sense after my experience the last couple of years is the best bill is the one we can get past. We can make a stand, and I agree to making a stand, but making a stand doesn't get us anywhere if it fails every time. That's my concern. Personally, I would like to see us get there. Practically speaking, how does that get done? What's a concrete plan to make it get, what gives us the best odds of getting it done? Educating public opinion? Absolutely. Making sure that we elect people that are in sync with that goal? Absolutely. But I also have learned, much to my dismay, that practically speaking, that stuff doesn't happen quickly. Just as the gun owners tolerated their rights being eroded over time. I think what we have to do, in a practical way, is to say, no, 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 we're going to move in this direction. And we established that, hey, you know what? We allowed our Constitution to actually be practiced the way it reads, and lo and behold, nothing bad happened. So you move forward again, until you get to where you need to be. That's not what I see as ideal, but I think practically speaking, that's what I think reality dictates that we probably should do if indeed it's going to get done.
And I see that as these meetings happening here tonight. We've got Republicans, we've got Democrats, both all agreeing that we need to support the Second Amendment. And we need to elect people from the grassroots, make that foundation, build from there, and go from that foundation. I see this as the only way we can do it. I mean, I know I'm speaking from a single, a single idea, and that's Second Amendment on this whole thing tonight. But I really believe we need to build from that foundation, and you guys are the foundations. Whether you're Republicans, Democrats, Independents, whatever, we need to protect our Second Amendment rights through everything that we can do and who we can elect. And that foundation is where we start from, and we can only move up from there. You don't want to go down.
Don't forget the nonpartisans.
Yeah, everyone. I mean,
any other candidate comments on the future of Second Amendment rights 5-10 years down the road? Can I say my piece for a moment? I'd like to see a future, and I'm no candidate, and I'm applying to be one. Yeah, but I've been studying this issue since I wrote my PhD dissertation on National Rifle Association and the media, much to the horror of the faculty and graduate school at the University of Michigan. And I fought my way through a lot of attempts to snuff me out, intellectually speaking, and I won. I'm a full professor now, and I can say my mind, pretty much. going to say it anyways. What I'd like to see happen, and again, I've been looking at this issue for 20 years now, from an intellectual point of view. Number one, I'd like to see us reclaim the universities. These have become hostile ground to us, with these little people buttressed in these positions that hang on forever. And I don't mind, actually tenure is a good idea because administrators are worse than tenured faculty, so I've learned this from experience. However, the faculty are like kind of a priesthood. It just stays there and perpetuates the beliefs and the knowledge through the centuries and years and so on. But the problem with the universities now is they hire too much people like themselves. And actually, in practice, you hire someone who's a little weaker than yourself because you're afraid to hire anyone who's smarter than you. So they'll show you up. So there's a regression towards total mediocrity or less than. And we need to, I think legislators need to look in universities, community colleges. I'd like to actually see some gun rights, constitutional rights, beside just in the law schools where they've also kind of perverted them. I'd like to see classes, like I teach a class in American gun policy, an honors class every other year or so, and it fills up within 15 minutes of registration. I'd like to see the community colleges, and some of them are getting into this too a little bit. It's a slow process, where they're offering concealed carry classes for the community as a community service. I'd like to see little bodies of funding for this. I'd like to see funding for research centers on the Second Amendment, and not like nonsense ones like they set up down in Ohio, or the Ohio University, where the Joyce Foundation gives them $60,000 to hire a professor to prove the Second Amendment doesn't mean what the Second Amendment says. Now, I'd like to see actual research done on these things by people who are actually objective and so on, and disseminating this research, because these state universities originally were set up by the government to increase technology, developments, diffusion of social ideas and innovation and so on. And I think we, the gun rights people, are an innovation, social movement. We're doing the right thing here. We're expanding rights. But I'd like to see some endowed professorships, some centers, a little bit of pots of money to make this going to happen so the universities where our bodies of knowledge and wisdom are no longer lost ground to us. And that's my commercial here. Now, let's hear. Anybody else have a final statement on Second Amendment future, rights past? Final question from the audience, please.
I'd just like to say something, and please don't take it personal, but I think that's such a defeatist point of view. And I think it's one thing that really bothers a lot of gun rights activists, is this idea that we should compromise our beliefs because maybe they're not popular or maybe we don't feel the public's ready for them. I can't imagine somebody taking the same attitude towards the First Amendment and saying, well, they've taken our First Amendment, let's just try and get it back little by little. When you compromise like that, it's why we have one of the worst CPLs in the country with so many no-carry zones, and that's because when we were going through the process, we wanted to make so many people happy that we compromised all these positions. And as a result, we have a laundry list of places we can't carry where crime is happening and nobody can defend themselves. And as Mr. Zorn said, registration might be a hard sell, but like I said, it's not a hard sell when you're using the facts, because these arguments against gun rights and absolute gun rights, they're emotional. There's no facts to them. So this idea that we should compromise, I know everybody up here said, I'm a member of the NRA, okay? That's good. I can tell you though, among hardcore gun rights supporters, a lot of people do not like the NRA because they feel they have compromised so many of our rights. And maybe if they wouldn't have compromised them, it would have ended up even worse. If you look at the 1986 gun rights bill that ended civilian possession of machine guns manufactured after 1986, that's when I know a lot of people are unhappy with the NRA for. But this idea that we should compromise just to get a little, I think is really the wrong point of view. We need to take back what was taken from us, and we need to do it now. We don't need 10 years from now to still be chipping away at this CPL law and getting daycares this year and schools this year. We need to go. They didn't take our rights away one by one. They came after them and they took them. And I really think that this idea that we should compromise them is the wrong approach. And I hope other people can see that too, and see that the Constitution isn't compromisable. Okay, as Mr. Wahlberg said, you can't take that the right of the people shall not be infringed and place all these infringements on it and say, well, some are okay for now, but we should get rid of some of them. Shall not be infringed. Any law other than punishing a criminal and keeping guns out of the hands of criminals is an infringement. Any telling me I can't carry in a place to protect myself and my family and my daughters is an infringement. And I really hope that people can see that and take the whole amendment as a whole, not just pieces of it.
And I'll say this is a historian of concealed carry laws. These laws were never passed, they were never as absolute as they are today. You may or may not know this, but a lot of the original concealed carry laws were passed to restrict gun guns to blacks and Italians and others.
Our registration law was a purely
The
racial
problem,
law.
we all became suspect people over time, and this was a very slow process, but I still see this as a difficult thing to roll back. I mean, I agree with many of these that, politics is the art of the possible, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. If you think about it, it seems like it's going slow now, but 20 years ago, how many of you thought you'd get a concealed carry permit by just going down to the county and saying, hey, I'm here? I remember when I called back in 1980-something to the Detroit police when I lived in that town, I said, I'd like to get a concealed carry permit. The response was, you don't need no concealed carry permit, and the phone was slammed down in my ear. So we've come a long way. We've come a very long way. Anybody else on the panel have anything else to say about this? Final remarks,
I will
Mr.
say,
Hoffman?
when I got my CCW, it was an act of Congress. I had letters from judges. I had a business. I had confirmed that I was carrying so much money from jobs. I come back with a job with $100,000. And I had to have proof of that to the board. In order to get my permit.
But don't forget, that old commercial, you've come a long way, baby. We've come a long way from where they pushed us.
But David, that's because your life wasn't as valuable as mine. I was a legislator, and I got it like that. I didn't have to go through that. Back in '86, I got it. So I just had to suggest, I didn't even have to suggest, down in Riga, they're trying to put a nuclear waste dump, and I was fighting the government to keep them from putting a nuclear waste dump in Riga. And even people I was trying to help didn't trust me because I was from the government. So it got pretty tense, so I thought, I'm going to get a concealed weapons permit. As a legislator, I could get it. No questions asked.
No background check?
Nothing. I was a legislator.
We got a guy going to run for office right now, he's got voted in different.
Well,
we need that.
then we changed the law, so now I have to go through the same thing that the rest of you do. But what I'm saying is, we've come a long way, baby, that you all can get it. But we also, I agree, we've given away an awful lot as well. Now, I believe in the art of the possible. I believe that as long as it moves us forward, I will take a compromise. As long as it moves us forward, it doesn't violate the Constitution. But I have to question whether we have moved forward when we had states all around this country that had, and still do, have better laws and more free laws, even though I don't think they should even have those. But that means we need to train our own citizen friends, our neighbors, our family members. We have to talk not with a red face. This is easy to get at times. We need to explain to them what the Constitution is, the value, the beauty of the simplicity. As Dr. Arnn so often says, the beauty of simplicity of the Constitution. The elegance of simplicity, as he goes on. And it is true. And we have to be able to describe to our friends and neighbors, yes, we are where we are. It won't happen overnight to go back where we ought to be. We've got to start moving that direction.
Thank you, sir. Now, let's kind of wrap it up here. I think we've been here long enough. Is there any final comments, maybe 1 minute or so at most? Have everybody said their piece pretty well?
I would just like to say that one of my goals would be to make Michigan a true shall-issue state, because it really is not a true shall-issue state. There are a number of processes. Having been the chairman of the Wayne County Government, I can tell you there's ways to stop somebody from getting a permit if you want to do that. And there are other issues too. I think there's too light of there's not a parachute to get people who are soldiers, people who come back. Once they've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome, it's going to be very difficult for them to get a permit. Because one of the things you think about when you apply for that permit is the right to have your mental record sealed. You can get gun work again if they want. And I think our troops that come back, hey, they're going to be stressed out. They're getting shot at, blown up, whatever's going to happen over there. They come back, they need to be able to, at that point, you'll have documented, I'm okay now and I can have my gun. Because the way it is right now, they're not going to get it. But Michigan needs to become a true shall-issue state.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? One minute final comment? Okay, this has been a good event. I mean, this is I just as a observer of the process here, I suggest that you remember the people who came and paid you the respect of talking to you and answering your questions and so on. This is a good thing here. This is a very good thing here. It's a good event, very informative. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, all the candidates, for coming tonight.